This player made me decide I wasn't going to run a campaign for my group of friends. Yesterday my friend ran his first RPG game, and I was genuinely excited. I had ran Honey Heist once, before about a month earlier, and he felt inspired to make an idea he had a reality. A little background on Honey Heist, which wasn't as bad. There are 5 people in my current friend group. One of my friends tends to be an asshole a lot of the time. I get it, he has anger issues. Whatever. I tend to deal with it and move on because he is a friend. I began my Honey Heist campaign already kind of exhausted with his character choice. He, being the edgelord that he is, decided he wanted to keep in mind he is a Barbarian assassin, while at the same time being Dio from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. His literal name was Dio. I know it was probably my fault for this, because I didn't speak up. But whatever, it was our first RPG experience and my first time being DM. Anyways, the party of bears had stopped a van that was filled with donuts going to a donut shop that was hosting a honey themed event. The entire party except for the problematic one was looking through the van, trying to find something that could help them locate the shop. The player proceeds to tell me that he is bored and wants to walk off alone in his edgiest, Batman-esque voice. I told him okay, and described the lone polar bear walking down the now empty road by himself. I politely told him we would get back to that in a second, as he interrupted the other players' trains of thought. He scoffed and huffed. After a few minutes and many sighs/eye rolls, I get back to him. I tell him there is a frozen over lake in front of him, and he says he wants to cross it, which would have been fine if I had literally anything prepared for what was on the other side of that lake. I told him that he heard the other bears, who had fixed up the van, driving up behind him. He says I want to set up camp and make a fire because I'm not going with them. I was frustrated at this point. I didn't like having him split off from what I had planned to not participate in anything at all. It ended up working out due to 10 minutes or so of the other bears convincing. The rest of the game went pretty much fine with little to no incidents from my problematic friend. My friend's D&D game, the DM set it up as to where we had little information on our character for story reasons, and we had all lost our memories. The problem child, once again, started out with a Batman voice. He then went on to describe his character, which was literally himself. I'm frustrated, but I couldn't change it, so I shrugged it off and moved on. My DM had set up bosses designed specifically towards each one of us. So, there were 4 bosses and a final boss. My DM made the mistake of making the problematic friend wait until the 4th boss to get his special item. So, you can probably already tell that he got bored after the first boss. Midway through the second arc he just got up and left to go into the kitchen to get some food. Completely unannounced. He came back and stated that he was bored for what seemed like the 40th time this session. The DM tried to step up his game, introducing enemies to try to keep the party occupied, and little inside jokes were scattered here and there that everyone was thrilled by. Everyone except that guy, who proceeded to grab some grid paper, pull out his phone, and attempt to draw some pixel art. I tried to help my DM feel better by engaging with him, keeping track of the story, and trying to be as excited as I can to keep him from just giving up. The other players saw this and followed suit. Around the 3rd boss, that guy was face down on the table running the D20 up and down his neck. This would have been fine. However, these were my dice I was providing for everyone to use, since I was more of the RPG guy and had collected a bunch over the past year. This wasn't the worst of it, as when it came to combat, he exclaimed, "Why can't it just always be my turn?" and threw my D20 across the room. Throughout the session, I spotted him picking his nose and touching my dice, putting my dice in his mouth like a small child, and the best part, putting glue onto his hand, rubbing it around, rolling my dice with glued hands, and peeling the glue off of his skin. He did the glue thing 3 times throughout the session. I have yet to touch those dice again and disinfect them. Now comes to the last hour and a half of the game, where he decides to hop off of the stool he is sitting on, pull his hood over his head, and lay under the table on his phone, not paying attention whatsoever. He still plays from under the table, throwing the dice into the air and having them land on the table, but he just didn't care about the game whatsoever. I feel bad because my DM had been working on this in his free time for a little over 2 weeks. So, he ended up rushing the ending, making us feel all unsatisfied and sad. Our 5-hour game had been almost for nothing because a single player tore it apart and made us feel like garbage by the end of it. I still had fun where I could, and I reassured my DM that he did a good job. But man, it was complete and utter hell trying to get through that game. We didn't say anything to the player yet, and we probably should and will. I wanted to run a campaign with all of my friends, but this completely steered me away from it. I can still do it, but that guy will eventually find out and get butthurt about it. I don't want to exclude everyone else, but I'll probably look for other people to play my RPGs with from now on. A little funny thing to add, after my Honey Heist game, I suggested doing a D&D campaign, and without me saying anything else, that guy opens up his mouth and says I wanna be a dark elf. No problem with dark elves. It was just an of course you do moment for me. Sorry for my possible broken English and frantic, angry typing. I'm pretty worked up about it right now after reliving that mess. I also understand that some of this is probably my fault and the DM's fault for not talking to the player beforehand and explaining what we wanted out of this experience. But some of the stuff he did was just inexcusable in my book. Looking a DM in the eye and saying I'm bored while they are spilling out their hearts is always a scummy thing to do and should never be done whatsoever. Much love to everyone here. 3Xenon. Edit. There were a few things I left out because so much happened. But that player wanted to kill every NPC. He made it his goal. When he was told by the DM that he can't just do that, he looked up at the DM, said I hate this game, and proceeded to throw his pen across the room. Another edit. I'd like to thank you all for the supportive comments. They mean a lot, and I have done some thinking. I'd like to touch on a few quick things. First of all, he can be a nice person. He typically is nice, but mostly only when things go his way. I've known him for roughly 7 years or so, and we've been good mates for a while, but I'm starting to get tired of his shit. He is moving away in about 3 months or so I'll probably start a campaign when he's gone. He is a close friend and has helped me through a lot of troubles, so it's hard for me to drop him out of the blue without feeling any regrets. Him moving away may help me with that aspect. Second of all, a lot of you are asking if he's 8 or 12. I find this pretty hilarious, because he's about to turn 18 in 5 months. Doesn't seem like it, I know, but I'm 100% serious. He's about to be an adult and that scares me. Lastly, we played these games at his house. This means it's not like we can just be like, yo, please stop, or even tell him to leave, because he'd just turn around and tell us to leave. I adore my friends, but we only get to hang out outside of school at that guy's house. We only do this because everyone else's houses aren't really suited to have a group of 5 teenage boys in one place at one time. Not much we can do about that aspect.